Before we begin, let's take a few moments to worship the Supreme One, the infinitely compassionate One, the Sublime One, the Lord Buddha. To do so, let's take a moment to chant the Namaskara 3 times, all together and with me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Welcome, everyone. I think it's great to see, so many people striving to attain nibbána. Because this is one of the most rarest things to do in this entire samsara. Having the determination to end it. And hopefully by the end of today's session or today's sermon, you'll be able to realize exactly why, or more that what was the purpose of this mind. So we'll talk about that, but I have something more, I have something, again, not more important, but as important to talk with you all as well. So the first thing is, yesterday we had an amazing ceremony. For those of you who may not know, we had the opening of our new kitchen. And that is one of the most meritorious things that I would like each and every one of you to rejoice with. Because for a car, you have to put in fuel. Without fuel, the car can't drive. What is the fuel for a human body? Food. Without the fuel, can the body drive? So you can almost say, and this is very common, right? That if you were to put everything together, because we have to remember is we have a body and have a mind. The body needs food. And without food, you can't do anything. You can't move, you can't talk, you can't do all the meritorious activities that you do. You can't go around listening to the sermons, you can't go around preaching sermons. And therefore, food is one of the most, I could say, is a core essential part of life. And I think, as I was saying, one of the most important things about being in such a community is that no one did it. We all came together to do it. We all had contributed in some sort of way. So we are all, you can almost say, heir to the merits. Because you yourself may not be the one who, put brick by brick, put the building up brick by brick. You may not be the one who, arranged the place. However, in your head, you thought this was, this is at the very least, in your heads, you had, this is a very good idea. How much benefit will this be? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And that itself is energy that was there for this amazing meritorious activity to happen. So each and every one of you, I don't think anyone was like, no, they're making a kitchen. No, we all had a very pleasant heart, thinking of how great and how beneficial this can be. So each and every one of you is heir to this merit. So every single day, a meal will be prepared. And who gets to rejoice with that merit? Who owns that merit? All of you. Every time, so all of our monks, all of our anagarikas, our Sila Shravikas, Vesis, and our devotees, and anyone who steps foot onto our monastery will consume this. Just thinking about this, Imagine someone comes and listens to one of Guru Rangad's sermons. Guru Rangad is preaching because he had something to eat. 1. The person sat down is listening because they had something to eat. 2. And let's say, right, that person becomes a sotapan in that sermon alone, escapes the shackles of samsara in that sermon alone. All of that merit belongs to who? See? This is why I think we're very fortunate. Maybe that so someone could become, and someone who's a sotapan could become, it can progress on the path, and one day, in that very hall, after consuming a meal, someone will become an arahant. Thanks to who? This is the power of merit. See, you can say, okay, it's just a kitchen. But you can look in the distance and see how much benefit even a small build, it's not small, but even a building can make. Some of our monks will consume this meal and, start preaching, spreading the Dhamma far and wide. All thanks to? This is the thing. That's why food is one of the most, I think, the core part of living. No one can live without food. So it's very meritorious. So I did want to show you, I did want to tell everyone. So for those of you who are here, of course, gets to see it. But those of you who are online may not know. So even those online, they still have the merits to rejoice in merits, which is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is why, rejoicing in merits is almost a pillar in Buddhism. Rejoicing. So we're very lucky to be able to rejoice, to have our hearts filled with the joy of seeing someone else or seeing a merit being made and accumulate merit ourselves. So that's one thing that I want to talk about. The next thing is we had one good. Now we go on to the more, the more terrible side of nature. Now I want to talk about something that has been a problem since the beginning of human intelligence, let's say. But the more we progress, the more we see it happen, and more we see, because we all know it's a problem, but it's very easy to just turn a blind eye, just to look away and say, yeah, it's happening, but I don't want to be a part of it. It's happening to my own family, but what can I do? I can't do anything about it. So specifically, I really want to talk about, as we progress as humans, right? We're becoming smarter, right? We have more resources, and because of this, we have better technology. And because of technology, we have been, handing some of the most powerful weapons to our own children. What are the most powerful weapons you can hand to children? Of course, the knife. The knife? No, there's something way more harmful than a knife. See, we all know this. It's like, it's the elephant in the closet. It's the elephant in the room and the skeleton in the closet, right? All you have to do is open it and you see that, it's technology. In particular, phones and tablets and all this. See, I'm not against this. I, for once, grew up with technology, and I, for once, appreciate it. Because of that, was I able to do the things I was able to do, right? Connect with people I didn't know, or find out new information, research. I'm not against it. But just like a knife can be used for good, but a knife can also be used for evil. You can use a knife to cut bread, You can also use a knife to hurt another person, to threaten another person. And unfortunately, what seems to have happened is, as we have improved as humans, and we've improved our technology and the quality of life in X, Y, and Z, what has happened is we have given, for our own ease, we have given our younger generations one of the most dangerous objects you can possibly give them, and that is, so for example, for young children, it's very common to see young children with tablets, iPads. It is so common that we have called these sort of kids iPad kids. It is now an official name, iPad kids. Children who grew up with iPads in their hands. It's funny when you see these videos of young children, like toddlers, babies, who are able to unlock phones straight out of, they're in the hand of their mother. Somehow they get hold of a phone and they're able to unlock it. Right? So is technology intrinsically, how to unlock it inside of us? Not really. Now, I'm going to start with the younger ages and we'll move up, right, to see the benefits and also the disadvantages of having such things. So at younger ages, we want to educate our children as fast as we can. So from young ages, we give them these sort of iPads and these technology, and we put on videos. Now there are very, very famous and very popular channels, and lots of very popular channels, especially on YouTube and whatnot, entirely dedicated for children. With nursery rhymes and these poems and such beautiful things. What we sometimes we fail to remember is what people want to do isn't only to give education to children. Because it's a human quality, well, not just human quality, it's a mind quality. One of the poisons that our mind possesses is what? Greed. And unfortunately, we can't stop that. We are unable to, unless we have the Dhamma, which young children, of course, do not. Greed is in their mind. And not only that, so do parents, and so do adults, and so do people who own these sort of companies and whatnot. Unless they have the Dhamma, unless they understand reality, greed is deep-rooted in their hearts. So unfortunately, for some of these videos, unfortunately, I don't have a video to show you today, right? I did have some videos prepared, but unfortunately, technical errors, and therefore I don't have these videos. But I can explain to you that some of these videos are just nursery rhymes. However, in these nursery rhymes, they want the child to be absorbed. They want the child to be with this video and with this channel for as long as they possibly can. Because the longer they are, of course, we know the more advantages the people have. And so what they do, they make very, very colorful content. Very colorful content. And it was very surprising. I was told by a person who has looked into this, that every time, if you ever go and you search these if you have time, and if you go and ever search one of these videos, the scenes will always change within 3 seconds. So for example, if the nursery rhyme was Old MacDonald had a farm, every 3 seconds the scene will change. Because why would the scene change? What purpose does that do? It catches focus. It catches attention. 3 seconds go by, next scene. 3 seconds go by, next scene. Now, unfortunately, what does that make minds do? Minds love change. Minds love change. So unfortunately, what seems to happen is the baby or the young child, their mind is attached to this. And they get used to this 3 seconds. And they search for 3 seconds. Now, what happens is once a child, it gets used to 3 seconds of information and the quick change. Now if we use the Dhamma to explain this, the mind wants what? Wants something. And when the baby's seeing this, of course, they want it, and when they see it, they're relieved. But the moment they're relieved, the next thing comes up. More relief. Next thing comes up, more relief. And so they're getting used to this idea of whenever I have vexation, I don't need to be patient. It's going to come to me. And so this is why we're seeing younger generations have shorter and shorter attention span, to the point where teachers have made massive complaints that it's becoming almost impossible to teach young children. Because why? 3 seconds. How can a teacher change what they're talking about every 3 seconds? And when the child gets bored, or when they're no longer stimulated, now what happens? Now I remember back when back maybe 5, 10, maybe 15 years back. Normally, when a child does something wrong, the parent says, "Oh, I'm taking this away from you," right? And they'll take the phone, turn off the TV or whatnot to punish a child. Nowadays, the moment a child does not have the iPad. Again, I wish we had the videos, but unfortunately, because I would have shown you several examples of children throwing tantrums, screaming, "I want my iPad. I must have my iPad." There's one really see, it's funny for us because it's not happening to us. But once you're in that moment and you're the parent looking after your child, now you see the issue. There's one child who was on his tab, right? I think he was probably 3, 4 years old maximum. Had his earphones on, playing a game. And he's done something wrong. Mother comes and says, "I'm taking your iPad away." And this 4-year-old says, "I dare you. Come take my iPad, I dare you." Now, of course, as a mother or a father, right, a child threatening you isn't something you hear normally, right? So the mother and father gets more angry and says, "Okay, I'm definitely taking it away from you now." And he's on the sofa playing this game. He puts his tab down, stands up, and you know how they go. They become really aggressive, ready to throw a punch if needed. That's just one example. See, we normally think children to be very innocent. We normally think children, they're just children, they don't know. But their anger is the same anger because there's no such thing as children anger and adult anger. Anger is anger and is anger. They get so angry. Because in their minds, what is giving them pleasure is being taken away from them. They don't learn patience. They don't learn how to be with themselves. Instead, it has to be, this has to be there. I must have my device. Again, there's other videos where, the mother would try taking the tab. And you know how, normally when someone takes something, you go slap their hand, right, to say no. This young, probably 2 years old, does that. When the mom takes the iPad, she slaps the hand and says, "No. Mom, no." She can't say anything else but, "No, Mom, no." That's it. Now, again, for us, looking at the video, it's funny, it's hilarious. You see this happen, and it's something of that's really funny, right? Because it's not happening to us. When it's your child doing this, now you realize this is the child that's going to grow up. This is the child that's going to grow up and look after me. Right now, if they're this aggressive now, when they go to their teens, how aggressive will they become? And so lots of people have, given up. And so, to keep children calm, to keep children calm, parents have now, on the baby strollers, they've made clips to clip on, a phone or a tablet onto the bar, so the child can be looking while, going in public, in places. So the mother or father can keep the child calm. There was an incident, but I think it's probably a couple years old now, where a child and their parents, their family, was going on a holiday. Holiday means going on a plane. Going on a plane means probably 3-4 hour flight, maybe more if we go further, 5, 6, 7 hours flight. And as they take off, right, the mother asks for the air hostess and tells the air hostess, "Can you turn on the Wi-Fi? My child needs to play her games." Air hostess leaves, but something may not have happened, but the Wi-Fi did not turn on. This young child, again, I don't think she was older than 4 or 5, stood up on the seat, started jumping on the flying plane, screaming and disturbing everyone around her. All because she doesn't have what? Internet, Wi-Fi. I think for it's probably because of ease. We find it really easy that, okay, the child is crying. If I, we give them pacifiers to stop them crying. We have learned to give them, when a child is crying, we give them, something that will pacify them. But just like when you take a pacifier out of a baby, they start crying. Once you take something like this iPad away from them now, they start crying. And we have learned to say that, okay, then we should give it to them. We can't stop them crying, so give it back to them. And they become addicted. Young children now, I wouldn't even say, probably from 6 months onwards, are now addicted to technology. They cannot survive without it. Always glued, with their face probably 6 inches away from the screen all the time, no matter where they go. So those of you who probably spend more time online than I do, I was told that, nowadays they'll show 2 videos. On the top they have the video, on the bottom they have some sort of other video playing, because children cannot focus on the top video. So they have another video on the bottom, so it can help them focus. Right, of probably some, as I was told, of gameplays and whatnot. But the top one is the most important one, where they tell a story or something else. But on the bottom, they just show random videos, so children can, when they're bored of this, can focus on this and come back to this top video. I mean, why do we want our children to be like that? Now, of course, some of you don't need this, right? Because your children are probably now very old, or you don't maybe not have children, but this is for anyone who needs it. Because I really do want to show you the effect of what we do on our younger generations. Because remember, the entire world is cause and effect. Every cause we change here will always change the effect. So whatever, because what we have to remember is, yes, a child isn't fixed. But the more views we give it, the more views we give the child, the harder it is for them to remove these views and attain nibbána. See, this is why they say this, but I don't agree with this. But they say that, the more older you are, the harder it is for you to attain nibbána, because you have so many views. You have so many views that you have to get rid of one by one. Because as you grow older, normally you have a big feeling, this is who I am. I've lived, this many amount of years, and I'm such a big person. To understand that, you are just as equal as everyone else. You're just a body and a mind. Takes a lot of time, because there's so many views holding or weighing you down. Now, at a young age, views are being placed. At a young age, they are learning things. Sometimes they don't. Some things that they don't need to learn at that age, they're learning. Now you can say we're advancing. Now young children know how to know things that usually adults, probably a 15-year-old knows now. No, a 5-year-old knows now that a 15-year-old back then would have known. So they're becoming more intelligent. However, children don't know what is right and wrong. Children don't know what is good and bad. So if they were to see a video saying, the world is a star shape. The world is the shape of a star, right? And if they were to give very fake proof, but if it feels proved, children will believe that, because they don't know any better. Now, I do know there'll be some children thinking, no, don't tell Amma this, don't tell my mother this, don't tell my father this. But it's something that even they know is wrong. Children themselves know that this is wrong, but we all seem to have turned a blind eye and think, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. That's how life is now. Just like, back in the 16th century, where the Black Plague was infecting the entire place. People just were born and they thought, this is how it is supposed to be. There's a Black Plague. I will get the Black Plague and die, and they just accepted that. Just like that, we've turned a blind eye to the changes that are happening in young children. Now, this is young. This is talking about from again 6 months to probably like 9 years. But as they grow older, they become they become very uncontrollable. I think I was reading some statistics saying that the children are becoming more and more. They're taking longer to speak. Children are taking longer time to speak. Children are finding it very hard to write compared to previous generations. And there are several cases where teachers have, I think, I do believe that a job of a teacher is one of the most stressful jobs, because dealing with a lot of children isn't easy. No matter how amazing of a teacher you are, dealing with children is not easy. And there have been several occasions and several news reports and whatnot of children, throwing things at teachers. Because they don't like the subject. They don't like the way the teacher was teaching. So they instead of trying to understand, they try to get rid of the vexation that's built up inside of them by choosing violence. So it's becoming harder and harder to teach. It's becoming harder and harder to teach. And as they grow older and as they enter the teenage years, right? Nowadays, I think it's 85% of all children, right? All teenagers have a smartphone. And on these smartphones, they have social media. Now, I remember back many, many years back, the start of social media, we had very, very simple challenges where you would challenge a friend to do something. So if I remember back, I remember one of the first ones that I remember seeing was probably something like the ice bucket challenge. Very, very old. But the entire purpose of this challenge was to bring awareness. To bring awareness of, if I remember of, so the moment, I can't remember very well, but I remember saying, it's like when the cold water hits you, you are frozen for a bit. And that's the same feeling as someone who has epilepsy. As I can't remember clearly, but something like that. So to bring awareness, they have these challenges, and they would challenge someone else and shout someone out so they can do it as well. Nowadays, people are doing whatever they can to get a second of fame. Not thinking about whether it's good, whether it's, if it's affecting another person. No, it is basically, how can I get as many likes as I possibly can? I was told by one of our children that there was a trend that went many years back called the ice cream licking challenge. Now, hearing this, it's a very, very nice, ice cream licking challenge. Probably they have an ice cream and they see how long they can lick the ice cream. But no, the ice cream licking challenge was a challenge that you go into a store, right? It's very, I don't know how people think of such amazing ideas. Go into a store, open an ice cream, lick it, close it, put it into the fridge, and leave. And record yourself doing it. Hashtag ice cream licking challenge. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think that's okay. One person does it, right? It gains a lot of attention. So what do other people do? The same thing. I think eventually it was a specific brand that the first person had done, right? And so this brand had lost millions because lots of children were doing this ice cream licking challenge, right? It got to the point where they would padlock ice cream, the coolers, right? Freezers. They'll lock it, have security guards in front of it because of how destructive it was. Now, we can't blame children. We can't blame them because they're doing what they feel is right. And what happens is, depending on how strong their morals are, if they want to have a second of fame, because right now, in this day and age, we're very focused on two things: money and fame. We're very focused on two things, which is money and fame. If I don't get money, I want fame. I want to be famous. This is why young children at very young ages want to become very, popular, either an actor or actress or, an influencer or some sort of person who has popularity. So that was just one. I think one that I heard that was worse than this was, I can't remember the exact word. I think it was called the devilish licks. Right? Now, this is it's not as disgusting in the sense of food, but it is something that, children have done, which was, they would go into schools, right? They'll go into their school, And they will take something from school, bring it back home, and record the entire thing, of course, and tag it as hashtag devilish licks, promoting stealing. And so people have stolen, I remember he was telling me that the people have stolen things as soap dispensers, parking for disabled spots, the board, stolen the entire board, someone even stolen a toilet seat, like an entire urinal and an entire, what do you call it, toilet, basically. For what? For what? A couple of seconds of, I got so many likes, got so many comments. See, now it's more about how can I get more, how can I get more followers? How can I get more likes? How can I get more comments? Then, I want to reach out to someone that I have never talked to, right? Back in your ages, you had pen pals or e-pals, right? Where you talk to a random stranger, a random child, of course, well, when you were a child as well, and you talk to them and you find out what they like and what they dislike, and that's what we use social media for. But now it's more, how can I get more attention? I need attention. Please, I crave for attention. Give me more. But that's not the worst one. It goes worse. It becomes worse. Again, he was going on one and this, and he was telling me another one where where they would challenge themselves to they'll ask someone to put them into a chokehold. So, in a very simple way, is to stop the blood reaching the head, right? So almost strangling, right? And you lose conscious, right? You black out. Hence the name Blackout Challenge. You black out. And then couple minutes later, you regain conscious. Except there have been many cases where the person has lost conscious and has not gained it. And yet, hashtag Blackout Challenge. See, now this is not me saying, parents restrict your children, because there is nothing you can do to stop it. You can't change society. What you can do is show the child the truth. Show them that this is what it is. I've got two more challenges, and then we'll continue, right? I have a list, right? He was telling me, and so I got a massive list. Two more. One was, I can't remember the car brand, but there was one video that showed how easy it was to hotwire a car. Hotwiring a car is basically taking the wires out and starting the car without the keys with a USB pen, right? I don't know. Right? Don't ask me. I don't know how they did it, but they somehow was able to hotwire a car. And from that day on, until I think many months afterwards, the same car brand, was being broken into and driven to places just because it was a social media trend. stealing cars. Who would ever think, humans would come to us, we as a society will come to a place where, stealing cars becomes a trend. And the people don't know whose car this is. It could have been, someone who is very, working at minimum wage, working so tirelessly to have mouths to feed, but now have lost their car just because of a trend. And the last one. This is more targeted towards the female generation, the female population. Now, dental practice, your teeth, right? And going to a dentist. Going to a dentist is very expensive, right? It's just expensive in every way possible. And so there was a trend, right? And especially orthodontists, so fixing crooked teeth is again, very expensive. So there was a trend that went by, which was, a person, starts off with a single person. A person was on her channel, whatever she was on, and was like, my teeth are crooked, or, my teeth are uneven. I want to even these out. So what she does is, she brings out a nail file. Those files you use for your nails, right? To make them look nice or whatnot. And files her teeth. Like when I'm saying this, my teeth feel weird, right? Files her teeth to make them look straight. Now, one person does it, other people follow. Again, it became a massive issue. I mean, dentists were earning many tons of money because people have done a mistake. It's someone's like filed off more than they should have. Right, so one tooth is a bit short, and not only that, what people don't realize is once your enamel is gone and you expose your nerves. For those of you who've ever had a toothache, right? You know how painful it is. There have been many occasions of people who have ended their life because their toothache was too painful. Because once your nerves are more exposed, you can't drink water because your teeth become very sensitive. So dentists have to go around and try to fix all this. Right. So dentists were earning money, but even it got to the point where dentists will put up videos saying, "Don't do this. You'll be in extreme amount of pain. Don't do this." Right. And the worst thing is, again, we're talking about minds that have the seed of greed. That greed has already rooted deep into their minds. Because you can say, okay, when these stupid trends come up, shouldn't the social medias remove its content? Unfortunately, most of these are removed after many months after the fast, or many months after it becomes a trend. Which means it's already spread far and wide. Damage is already done because more people watch, more people do, more views, more money they make. Now, I'm not saying they're bad. It's not that they're bad. Is that we have to be aware that this is what's happening. That not just young children, like there are other ones where people would dance on random strangers' graves, disrespecting the dead, the deceased. But this is where where our society is going to. I'm not gonna talk about the language, the use of language. Because nowadays, I think the younger generation can all confirm, new words and new complicated things are being used more and more often, right? To a point where, grown-ups are looking at their child and thinking, I don't understand what this child is saying, right? I have no idea what this child is saying. Are they speaking English or are they speaking a completely different language they don't know? But unfortunately, this is how society is going. Where we will stop, we don't know. Like after I was told this, the first thing that came to my mind is how incredibly lucky our children are in our noble hearts and our 18 minus, right? Our 13 minuses as well. How lucky they are. Because they don't get these views from the outside. What views do they get? Yesterday, we all got together and we offered a kitchen. That's the view they get. This Anagarika Mahatya, he's like this and he has helped, and this monk, when he was an Anagarika, had washed 1,000 robes. That's the views they get. When will they ever start filing their teeth? When will they start, finding the best ways to steal cars? All they get is these wholesome views. I mean, the views growing up, going to school, the views that we got from school? The amount of view, probably only a quarter of those views probably go into the child now. Because they're protected by two things, by Kalyan Mitra and by the Dhamma. Because now when they look at themselves in the mirror, they don't see, my teeth are uneven. They see, why do I feel this is me? Why do I feel that this is me? Why do I feel that this reflection doesn't look good? Why do I think that? They are protected by the strongest protections ever. So I really do wish we had our videos, and then I could have shown you all this, because again, it's one thing to say it, but it's a complete, like we experienced that last week, right, with sand. It's one thing to say it, but it's a completely different thing to see it. But unfortunately, we don't have the videos. But hopefully next time I'll be able to show you the videos. They'll be very out of context, right? But I do want you to see. Now, I don't want you to think that this is the entire society. Society is all bad and terrible, because it isn't. I just showed you a corner of it. Society is not bad. It's just that these things happen. And we need to protect our children. Now, you can say the easiest solution is what? Don't give phones to children. Don't give tabs to children. Easiest solution. But you can't do that. Not now anyway. Nowadays, children, who are going to Montessori needs a tab. They have to learn on their tab. I remember on my last year in school back in the UK, the younger years got letters saying it's compulsory to bring a laptop to school. Compulsory to bring a laptop to school. And we all know what will happen, once laptops are allowed. I mean, it's very good. We're saving paper, right? Because there'll be less books that need to be printed, right? We have more access to lots more resources. Again, amazing. But are the children protected? Children. It's a very known fact that children from younger ages are now finding themselves wound up into places that they're not supposed to be. Right? Because remember, social media is not a person. Social media is an algorithm, a program that wants you to stay in that platform for as long as possible. If that means to show you a video that can be concerning, it will be to put a video that you shouldn't be watching. So again, younger and younger generations are finding themselves wound up in places, in websites that they're not supposed to be in, thanks to the internet. Now again, I have nothing against the internet. The internet is amazing, right? You got so much results. See, these sermons are on YouTube. So can I say that these sermons are that YouTube is horrible? No, because you have sermons. Like for example, Amadas and Handrus, Nayak Handrus, some of his talks are going so many places on social media. So it's not a bad thing. But we must learn how to protect the child. Now, that's children. What about adults? Adults are exactly the same. We have the wisdom to not to do something stupid. To not do something, we're not going to go steal a car. But we're not wise enough to stay out of the traps. Again, the anagarikas, the monks, the Sila Shravikas are very lucky. Living and breathing in the monastery means that they don't get so much time to explore the world, explore the internet and what's new, what's the newest movie. Trust me, I don't think I know. Unless a child comes and tells me, oh my God, this movie came out, I don't think I know new movies. I don't think how Sila Shravikas have watched a movie in years. Anagarikas, of course, Anagarikas, and we don't know. So we are very protected. What views do we get? Just yesterday we had an opening, right? Dakineyos, we get to hear sermons. So for most of our English listeners, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sermons that we can listen to every week, right? Which are absolutely amazing. Surrounded by such great people trying to push us to do such great things. I think we have to. So we are very fortunate to be in a place where we're protected. Because what we have to remember is this is nothing to do with. I'm not here to say how bad life is and how bad all this is, because nothing's bad about any of this. What is bad is that we don't understand our mind. That's what's bad. Because the world itself is neutral. The world can never be good or bad. It's just neutral. We're the ones who make it good or bad. If a child was to understand their mind, they will no longer have a dependency on their iPad. If a teenager was able to understand their mind, they no longer need or require to get as many likes or to become famous. They don't require that anymore. Like our 18 minus anagarikas and anagarikas, they don't require to be on social media. They don't require to be to know what's happening around the world, because they understand what? That it's all in the mind. That it's all in the mind. So something that I do want to explore with all of you today is what life is. Because it's one of the most important, I feel, concept that we have to understand. What is life? Because the way we define life currently is that, it's the day I'm born and the day I die. That's why on our gravestones, right, on our tombstones, we have, our name, a quote maybe, and, the day birth, this day, died this day. Because that's how we define life. However, we know that life cannot be like this. Because we have a body and we have a mind. Because if we say life, right? Life is the day I was born and the day I died. The day your body was born, or the day your mind was born? The day the body died, or the day the mind died? Which one? Now you can say, well, my body was born on, the 19-something century, right? And it died in 2000 and something. You can say that, but the body wasn't really born at a specific moment. Because how do you define birth? How can you define birth for a body? When it exits the womb, is that birth? So before that, was it dead? In the womb, at what point? Is it when the brain was functioning? Is it alive? Is that birth? So before the brain, was it dead? At what point can we define the birth of a body? Because the body is something that constantly changes, bit by bit. Yeah, we all know about Theseus's ship, the paradox, right? There's a ship owned by Theseus, who was one of the most famous sailors, right? Explorers. They wanted to preserve his ship, right? Every time something broke, they would fix it. Right? They remove the part and they fix it and put it together again. So every plank of wood that breaks, they'll replace it. Every mast that breaks, they'll replace it. Every time the flag or anything breaks, they'll replace it. Now, a thief comes along and takes all these broken pieces and puts them together and makes his own ship. Which one is Theseus' ship? Because your body is the same thing. Your body is something that changes every single moment. See, are you the same? Is your body the same body it was when you were 2 years old? So am I looking at your 2-year-old body here? No. Am I looking at your 10-year-old body? Is this how you look like when you were 10? Is this how you look like when you were 20? No. Because your body is something that's constantly changing. So you can't really place a birth on a body. You can't place, this is the birth of a body. But how can you define death of a body? So we're not including the mind here. What is the death of a body? They say if someone's head was to be beheaded, the head would move for, I think, 4 minutes. It's a very gruesome fact, but it's a fact. If someone was to be beheaded, the head would open and close its mouth for a certain period of time. So is it dead or not dead? Is the head dying and the body still alive, or is the body dying and the head still alive? How do you define the death of a body? Or is it when the body becomes soil, becomes compost? Is that when it dies? How do you define the death of a body? See, our body you can't define a birth or a death of a body. So, what is the life of a body? If there's no birth or death of a body, then what is a life of a body? Life is what? The constant change. The body changing. So there's nothing, that's constant that we can, pin and say this is what life is. Instead, it's a constant change. So if the body doesn't have a birth or death and you can't say the body, the life of a body, then what's the life of a mind? What's the life of a mind? Now, the mind does have a birth and does have a death. But it's not the same birth and death as we define it. See, if we had a tombstone, right? Let's have a tombstone, right? Right? X dies, right? They're born in 1926 and died in 2026. So still not dead yet, right? This is the future tombstone of X. So how old are they? How old were they when they died? Let's make this bigger so you can all see. Simple math. X is the one that died, right? Born in 1926. I'll put it to 5. I'll put it to 4, right? To make everything. So he died last year, right? And died 2024, last year. How old was the person when they died? How old? 100 years old. Okay. But we define that, this is not the birth of the body or the death of the body. So is it the birth of the mind and the death of the mind? Okay. Let's explore this. So is our mind 100 years old? Well, is X's mind 100 years old when it died? It can't be. How old was the mind? How old can a mind be? How old can a mind be? The question is wrong. You can't state age for a mind. For you to state age for a mind, you have to have a way of defining time. Yeah. Basically, the way you can actually define time is by using minds. There's no other way you can actually define time. So, the mind is if we looked at it in perspective of a life, a mind is like almost like a billions of a second. So technically, X was born in 1924, and X's mind died in 1924, and it was born again in 1924 and died again in 1924. Not on the same day, but with very short intervals. Because the birth and death of a mind is in one thought, one chitta. That is the birth and that is the death. When the mind arises, we can say it was born. Can we say it was actually born? Not really, but for this example state, yes, we will say the mind is born, and after the chitta, the mind then passes away. Because because of ignorance, we have this massive timeline. We have this massive timeline, and we say, I was born this day, and I died this day. This is the day I graduated. This is the day I got my first job. This is the day I retired. This is the day, I got sick. right? Terminally sick, and this is the day I died. On this massive timeline, we have specific dates. This is, and not only that, we have specific, again, because of convention and because of how we feel, we have certain ages. For example, from 0 to 2, I think, you're a baby, and then 2 to 5, you're a toddler, right? And then from toddler to 10, you're a child. From 10 to 12, I think 11 to 12, you're a tween. And then 13 to 19, you're a teen. And then from 20 to I don't know, 30, you're called a young person. And from 30 to 35, middle age. And then 30 to 40 or 45, it's middle age. From 45 onwards, now you're becoming old, and then you say, this is age of retirement. And you've specifically, we've defined specific areas of our life, and so we have given our life specific parts. But in reality, every single moment, what was always present? A mind arose, a mind passed away. A mind arose, a mind passed away. So each and every one of these, even though when you were just newly born, and the day you passed away, was your mind any different? Or was the process of the mind any different? It feels as though it has to be different, right? A baby's mind and an adult's mind has to be different. We feel that. But in the actual process, is it different? Is it different? See, if we had the video, I could have shown you the anger the child had. This is the same anger that adults experience on the road. With road rage, the same anger, right? Because it doesn't matter about age. Because age, in a very weird way, is just something that the mind feels. Simply put, if you were to be, in a different planet, will your age differ? Of course it will. Right now on Venus, you would have been, 200, 300 years old. But on Mars, you're still, in your early teens. Because age is just something that you feel. The mind feels when the mind arises. But all this, again, is a feeling the mind feels. I've lived for a good 50 years. Right? It was a very good 50 years. Now, where did that idea come from? That's a feeling that the mind has. Because the mind only lives for, a couple of, or a fraction of a second. And it passes away. Now, here's what's interesting. Let's look at how the mind works, right? But before we look at how the mind works, I want to explain how energy works, right? Because I think that's very important. Energy. Where does energy always want to go? Where does energy always want to go? When I mean where, I don't mean like a specific place. I mean, energy is always looking to be in the most stable form possible. That's why if I was to put this and drop this, it will land on the table. Why? Because right now the energy it has is not so stable. It's more stable like this. That's why, a pen staying up like this is not stable as the pen staying like this. That's why if I was to flick this, it will fall. Because the energy is always looking to be zero, or energy is always looking for the most stable way. That's why, that's why you can use unstable atoms to make more energy to bring it to a more stable state. So for example, nuclear power works like that. You take a very unstable atom because it's trying to look for stability. So it's going to break away and become stable. So energy is always looking to be in the most stablest form. That's why, you hear that, energy dissipates. For example, this light energy, where does it finish? Where does it end? It all dissipates into different places, and it's no longer light energy. You can't say there's an end to it, but it always looks for the most stable form. It looks for the most stable form. And that's why, this pen will one day become energy because it's most stable in that form, in energy form. So, everything is trying to go to its most stable form. And in science, you call this entropy. Right? That's a word that we've used several times in the past as well. And this entropy is trying to come to the highest point of entropy, right? The highest point, meaning the most stable form. For energy, the most stable form is hypothetically what we call pure energy. That we call pure energy. So it's always trying to go back to pure energy. Now let's come back to the mind. How does a mind always start? What needs to be there for a mind to start? First of all, there needs to be the environment, or the mind base. Without a land or without a foundation, the mind cannot arise. And then most importantly, this is just the environment. For if mind is energy, what does the mind need to arise? It needs energy. Where does it get the energy from? It takes it from vipaka energy. Now, this vipaka energy comes into the contact with the mind, and we know, right? When it comes into contact, and with many other conditions, we receive. Or we get rupa. Now, here's the thing. This vipaka is an energy that can only give the mind a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or a thought. Or more than a thought, we like to call it a mental image. That is what the mind will always try to. That's the only thing that the vipaka can give you, is a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste, a touch, or a thought. Which means it can only give you R. And again, I won't go into very much detail, right, of this, because there's something that I really want to show, which I found really interesting, by a sermon done by Guru Hamdru to monks and anagarikas. And I find it really interesting, and I do really want to share this with all of you. So we have, it gives us rupa. And because of rupa, we have now that is fine. That is perfectly fine. Vipaka, RVSSV, or Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. And then what happens to this? What happens to this energy after it comes throughout? After it comes out of this, it goes and it dissipates back into pure energy. So the mind takes vipaka. The entire purpose of the mind is to take vipaka and put it into its purest form, which is what? Pure energy. However, there's a defect. However, there's defect, which is what? Our favorite thing in the world. What is that? Ignorance. Ignorance and attachments give rise to vexation. We know this. And we have Zanti mode or abhisankara. But after abhisankara, what is very, very interesting is that we get, because remember, what is ignorance? Ignorance is this idea of what? Ignorance is the idea of something to be fixed, something to be, something to be continuous, something to be that is fixed. That is not part of that. That's separate from cause and effect. Something that is fixed there, and because of that, and because the mind wants that, right? The mind has attached itself to that. It has vexation. Now, because of abhisankara, it feels as though it has found it. It feels as though it has found what it's looking for. Now, when you're out and about, let's say you get invited over to a friend's house. Right? You get invited over to a friend's house, and let's say they've made dinner. Let's say they've made an amazing curry. If you like the curry, what do you do? What is your next move? If you like the curry, what is your next move? You can either say, can I have some for later? Right? Can you pack some for me? What else can you do? You know that your curry was absolutely amazing. Can you share me? Can you WhatsApp me the recipe? Can you share the recipe? So what are you doing? You liked it because you got what you wanted, and so you want to have it again. So you find another way to receive it again. And that's exactly what your mind does. Your mind got to, it's in Santi mode. And it realizes, okay, I'm going to receive what I want. I want this again. So it calls on its best friend, Bhava. Right? Almost like the recipe to get this again. So actually we'll call it for this example, and this example only, we're calling it storage of or storing recipe. And it stores the recipe. So it takes this energy and puts it together and throws it back into storage. Which means what? It throws it back into your bag or into your karmic strand or your karma bag. But still, because of this, and because of this, another mind is formed. another mind is formed. And it goes RVSSV, but unfortunately because of this, again it goes back. So your mind, thanks to ignorance, is doing what? Taking the energy that was supposed to go where? Into its most freest state, into its happy place, right? It has a pure energy. It takes that energy and says, nope, I want to experience this again. Takes that energy and throws it back as a karma. Karma takes vipaka. See, for every single thing that we do, I think this is very, you can almost say very dangerous. For the reason, every single mind is accumulating some sort of karma. Every single mind is accumulating some sort of karma, whether it's meritorious or demeritorious, is regardless. You are accumulating some sort of karma. Now, if I was to ask you, in your life, do you accumulate more? Do you do more good things or do more bad things? Normally, we do more demerits than merits itself. For example, you're consuming food. When you consume food, do you think about how I want to you've made this amazing curry. How can I share this with others? Or, wow, this curry tastes amazing. What sort of ideas go through your mind? If it's a meritorious idea, well, be happy that you're feeling this with merit. If you're drowning in lust and desire, understand that this isn't good merit you're storing. So again, merits, so the vipaka comes in. See, vipaka, you can't really say, you have good and bad karma, but you, as a person who can't see vipaka and karma, as in we can't, because only the Buddha can truly understand vipaka, right? Because we can't see the ins and outs of vipaka, we can't call vipaka to be good or bad. Because what is good vipaka and what's bad vipaka? You receiving the recipe for this amazing curry, is that good vipaka or bad vipaka? Well, you can't say, because you could say it's a good vipaka because you get to eat food. But let's say you prepared this, but the meat that you prepared was uncooked properly. It wasn't cooked properly. And now you have food poisoning and now you're sick. So you receiving the recipe was a good karma or bad karma? We can't say. Because we don't understand, because we can't see vipaka. Unlike the Buddha, right, who has the perfect understanding of vipaka. He can say whether what was a good karma, what's a bad karma. What was a good vipaka, what's a bad vipaka. But for us, we don't know. So a vipaka comes in, rupa vedana sanya sankhara vijnana. And because of ignorance and attachment, and because of bhava, it goes back. So now we're stuck in a cycle. We're stuck in a cycle. And this cycle is what we call what? The cycle of Sanasára. See, we normally say Sanasára is, the birth and death, it's reincarnation. Yes, it's reincarnation. Reincarnation of what? The mind. See, it's not really reincarnation because it's not the same mind that arises, but it's a cycle of minds. One mind, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. This is Sanasára. This is the trap that we have to get out of. So naturally, what does your mind want to do? Naturally, want to send this energy away into a pure energy state. But what is your mind thanks to ignorance doing? The complete opposite. It's storing it, putting it back into the battery, saying that I want to do this again. So you're doing the opposite of what energy wants you to do. So technically, your mind wants you to attain nibbána. But your mind, with ignorance, it's saying otherwise. Your mind was, you can almost say your mind was made, or your mind arose for you to attain nibbána. But ignorance and attachment says, come back again. Because your mind was there, or your mind arose to take this vipaka energy and put it into the pure energy. Turn it back into pure energy. Because energy wants to be in its most purest form. This is why, every single person will one day attain nibbána. Because they need to go back where? To the pure energy state. That's why Devadatta, right, the so-called enemy of the Buddha, his arch nemesis, will become a passe Buddha, a silent Buddha. Because the vipaka energy needs to go back to where? To pure energy. So every single mind of you. See, normally we say that, attaining nibbána is very unusual. There's only, it's going against everything else that, we are trying to swim upstream. We're trying to swim upstream. We're trying to go against the flow of everything else. Right? This is why, you say that nibbána is very difficult because it's not normal. Actually, it's the most normal thing that your mind can do. But ignorance and attachment says otherwise. Your mind arose for one thing and one thing only, for you to attain nibbána, but ignorance and attachment says, oh, come back again. Your mind arose for you to attain nibbána. So why haven't you? Yes. Point of? Yeah. A point where, because it's a point where energy is at its... Exactly. It's always trying to come to this equilibrium. The world is always trying to come to equilibrium. That's why, the world is created and the world will be destroyed, because it's coming to its most stable form. Exactly. So this is why they think we need to get rid of this. We need to get rid of this process. This process is extra. So, we say that, we're living life and we're, in life we're trying to attain nibbána. So it's almost like life is there and nibbána is an extra layer on top. Actually, it's the other way around. Nibbána is there and, living life is on the top layer. That's the extra part. Ignorance and attachment creates this extra part. But in reality, all that is there is this, nibbána. So you look around the world, right, and you see all these people who are doing such useless things because they don't realize the purpose of their mind. You know, it's very funny that a lot of people in this world, right, they have this question, what is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of life? That is the purpose of life. But unfortunately, because of ignorance and attachment, their purpose is, you know, I want to gain so much money that I can leave my name on the surface of the moon. You know, I want to be someone who will be known for the entire, you know, people will say my name throughout the history of time. No, the purpose of your existence, or your purpose of your mind, the purpose of life is to attain nibbána, to take the vipaka energy and put it into its purest form, in its most stable form, as pure energy. That is the purpose of your mind. So if anyone asks you, right, what is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of life? Why were you born? I was born to attain nibbána. Which seems very controversial, right? Because if you attain nibbána, there will be no life. Because once you attain nibbána, you know, the cycle stops. So we all know there's two types of nibbána, right? One nibbána is when ignorance is gone. The other nibbána is when the mind base is no longer there. So when you attain nibbána, then this cycle stops. Cycle stops meaning when this is no longer there, when the mental base is no longer there, the cycle stops. And when the cycle stops, everything goes back into its most stable form. See, all energy, and it's not just the mind, everything's the same. This pen is also trying to go to its stable form, but because of ignorance and attachment, what happens? It changes form to become something else. Because of ignorance and attachment, this pen was created, wrong word. This pen manifests due to what? Ignorance and attachment. Because someone had to need to make this. Someone had to want to make this. There had to be a necessity. Necessity is the mother of creation. So there had to be necessity. There had to be ignorance and attachment. Therefore, this is there. Get rid of ignorance and attachment, then what will happen to this slowly? This will go back to where? Its purest form. See, our duty is to let nature be. Let the vipaka go back to pure energy by getting rid of ignorance and attachment. See, nibbána isn't something extra. It is what we have to do. Nibbána is what we have to do. It just feels extra because we have to get rid of ignorance, to get rid of attachment. We have to think. We have to understand. That's why it feels that, I have to do something extra than living. No, life is basically nibbána. Plus this. We have to continuously understand, okay, why do I feel this to be fixed? Why do I feel this to be fixed? Why do I feel this to be, unique? Why do I feel this to be that has intrinsic value? Why do I feel this not to be cause and effect? That's something beyond cause and effect. Why do I feel this? You show the mind the reality. See, I think sound is very interesting. Sound is very interesting because, well, not just sound, but sound and colors are very interesting because we normally say colors and sounds are very separate. So you have high pitched sounds and low pitched sounds. You have sounds that are very loud and sounds that are very quiet. But high pitch and low pitch, right? Sounds. Oh, they're not separate. If you were to repeat the same sound at a higher frequency, so many times if you repeat the same sound or same vibration more times a second, you get a higher frequency, a higher pitch. If you take a vibration and you slow it, to keep it less frequencies, but you pulse it less times a second, you get a lower pitch. But sound itself isn't something that is separate. But yet we feel this is my voice, this is your voice, this is this is why if Guru Handru ever gets like a cold and he has a different voice, you think that that's Guru Handru's voice has changed. Where if his voice has changed? Like if, for example, if I was to speak, in a higher pitch or lower pitch, why is that strange for us? Because you have separated this out and said, this is my voice, this is their voice, this is his voice, this is her voice. You see, our eyes and ears are our most important organs. They're one of our most important organs. If you lose a sense of smell, well, you won't be too, well, you'll be sad, but you're not going to be too bummed about it. If you lose the sense of taste, again, you'll be sad, but you're going to be upset, but you're not going to be horrified. If you can't feel hard, soft, hot, cold, again, you're not going to be, it's not going to be the end of the world. But people who could see, but no longer can see, people who could hear and no longer can hear, their mind goes through lots and lots of vexation. Because why? The eyes and ears are what takes in all of this. Is through eyes and ears can you make the most amount of distinctions, can see the most amount of, you can feel more separateness through your eyes and ears. Because if I asked you how many colors are there, then you could say, yeah, well, there's blue, there's red, there's white, there's black, but there's also navy blue, baby blue, I don't know, what else blues are there? Sky blue, ocean blue, and they all have distinct colors. Right? Then you got red, you got crimson, you got pink, you got hot pink, you got cold pink, you got light pink, dark pink, pale pink, and you got, again, many pinks, many oranges, many greens, so how many colors are there? Even if they have somehow found names for all the colors, you will still find a color and you can name it your name if you wanted to. Right? You can mix two colors together and find a color that they've not named yet and name it your name. It's possible. Because our eyes can see so much distinction. And not only that, our eyes can see depth. Eyes can see shadows. And so we are able to sense the world. And we love this feeling because with our eyes, we can see lots of separate things. Ears, again, ears can hear lots of separate sounds. This is why, you can children can do this as well. I don't know. I think also adults can do this as well. You can identify a person with their footsteps. By how they walk, you can identify who they are. Or, by just maybe a cough, you can say, that has to be. Or someone sneezes at a distance, and you're like, oh, that has to be this person. They always sneeze like that. Again, you're giving them you're feeling so separate. But say for other sensations like smells aren't so strong. If you were to put, say, a strawberry scent on this corner and raspberry scent on this corner, you will smell a mixture of it. So you can't smell them separately. You can try to separate the smells, but you can always smell the mixture. But with sounds, it's called the cocktail party effect, where even if you're in a room filled with people and they're all talking, you can still focus on one person. You can still hear and focus on one person. But when it comes to smell, you can't. Again, you can't really feel much difference, much separation with your sense of touch. Taste, of course, you can taste different, but as you grow older, your taste buds don't pick up as strong tastes. Right? And again, there's very, very limited number of tastes you can taste. This is why your eyes and ears are your most precious organs. That's why they say, protect things like your eyes. Yeah, especially in Singha they say this, right? Like, ahawage balaganu. Because that's the most important organ. Because that gives you the most amount of what? It gives you the most amount of feel of, oh, it's separate. It's different. But in reality, when you look at it in reality, when you step away from this way of thinking, you realize that no, it's just the same light with different frequencies. All that you have to do is take light and make it vibrate more frequently, and then you're like, oh, it changes color. Wow. That's why how kids love chemistry, because you take two chemicals, you put them together, and it makes a different color. It is so surprising that you can put two liquids that are completely clear, put them together, and it makes a dark blue. People get so excited because it feels so wrong. But the proof is in front of you. Because we think that these two chemicals are different chemicals, and so it has to be something different. But when it gives a completely different color, we're so amazed. When really you should be like, oh, of course. Causes come together, gives you a different manifestation. Different manifestation gives you a different frequency, and now I see it dark blue. See, we have to. See, your minds were made for you, or your minds arose. See how it's very easy to say your minds were made, but your minds weren't made. Your minds arise according to the causes for you to attain nibbána, and nibbána only. For vipaka energy to go back into pure energy. So let it be. Get rid of the extra part. Get rid of this extra weight, and do what nature needs you to do, requires you to do. That's the thing. We're not going against the flow of nature. We're not going against. We're not going against. We're not going upstream. Instead, we're going downstream. Everyone else is trying to go upstream. See, if you're going upstream, right, there's a fast, rapid river, and if you're trying to go upstream, what do you face? Difficulties, stress, suddenly a stick hits you in the head, right? Pain. Agony. Frustration, you lose your footing and you go back a couple steps. That is because you're going the wrong way. So coming back to where we started. So our minds were made to attain nibbána. Now coming back to the very beginning. Help these children. These children don't understand this. So they fall into the traps that we talked about before. No, they are as vulnerable as they are as vulnerable as children. Now this is talking about the worst parts, but you can go better. And there's looking and talking with these many children, you see the effect it makes on their life. Again, someone who understands this, well, the internet is just another tool. Someone who doesn't understand this, the internet becomes life. So this is a tool. Right? Use this understanding, and we have to save these children before, one day if a trend comes that it comes to, when someone hurts you, hurt them back. I can guarantee that people, once they are hurt, they will start hurting back. Because what? Hashtag it's trending. See, you can't blame children. Neither can you blame adults. There is one enemy and one enemy alone. Or technically two enemies. No matter what, we only have two enemies. What? Society and food? No. Our two enemies are very easy, very simple, but they are in the most, sometimes the most obvious places, sometimes hidden in dark corners. Right? We only have two enemies: ignorance and attachment. So no one's at blame here. You can't blame children and say, okay, why are you always on your phone? It's not because they want to be on their phone. Because what part of this do they control? What part of this can they control? Can they control what Vipaka energy takes fruit? Can they control the Rupa Vedanas, the Sanya, the Sankara, Vijnana? Which part can they control? Can they control ignorance? Can they control attachment? Can they control vexation? Can they control can they control abhisankara? Can they control bhava? Can they control jati? What part of this can they control? If they can control this, now you have the full liberty to blame them. Now be my guest, shout at them and say, why are you always on your phone? Why can't you be why can't you be like our Noble Hearts kids? If they can control it, be my guest. But they cannot. That's why the only thing that we can do is, because all of this comes from memories and comes from views. That's the only thing that we can do is give views. You give more and more views. Until you can give them the view of Dhamma. So save the children. And before we end, I want to tell you one more thing, right? Just last Sunday, I think so, we had an assembly at the Dhamma school in the Royal Institute. And I'd like to say that we had two of our Noble Hearts LB and also one LB from our Anagarikas, 18 months Anagarikas, to give speeches, right, to a group of children and their parents. And let me tell you, they did absolutely amazing. Amazing to the point that a teacher came up to me and said, Swami Hansa, and I'm not even lying here. This is true facts. She came out to me and said, Swami Hansa, how is this possible? These children are so, number one, so well behaved. Number two, they speak so nicely, so calmly, and so clearly. No matter how hard I try, right, I can't get children to talk like this. And the first thing I told her was, well, madam, this is because of their association. And she was like, can we please, can I bring a group of children to the monastery? And so, these children can actually teach them. And I was like, yeah, sure, we can arrange that. Because they are role models. They may not, they may never be millionaires. I don't think so. Who knows? They may never be millionaires, but they will be role models. I mean, all three speeches. We had two from our Noble Hearts, and one from our Anagarika's side. And it was very strange because they are all on the same. They had three different topics. One topic was the choice of freedom or freedom of choice. Second topic was real happiness. And the third topic was the first human right is the right to understand. These are the three topics. No matter what they said, they all had the same lesson inside. And the lesson is, number one, each of them had in their speech had said that they explained the changes of their life. Number one, and number two, they explained to these young children who were listening to the assembly how the Dhamma, how special the Dhamma is, and how we need to understand the Dhamma. And number three, how amazing their association is. Even though these three topics aren't the same, they end with this. They end with the same lesson. So the teacher was like, "Did you plan this?" And I remember saying to the teacher, I was like, each of these children, they prepared by themselves. Right? Probably had help from their fellow noble associations, but noble friends and whatnot. But all that was by themselves. All we did was we just set them a stage for them to speak. So I cannot wait to hear more from these young children. If right now they're making such a difference at such small ages, when they become our age, when they become your age, who knows what impact they'll make? They will, hopefully by that time, they would shake the entire world. Right. Let's take a few moments to transfer merits and conclude today's session. Let's take a few moments to transfer the merits we've all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Pirit, Sundharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Lord Buddha's teachings. And with immense gratitude, let's chant for the merits of the Bhikshu Bhikshunis, Upasakas, Upasakas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha and passed it down to the generation of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend Dhamma. Let's all take more and transfer merits to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including all chief pillars of our chapters, who have dedicated their lives to the noble path and committed themselves to betterment of all sentient beings. Let's not forget among them will be the monks and nuns resident in local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's all take my own chance to merit to Guru Sananse, as well as other monks resident in the monastery, as well as Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let's all take my own chance of merits and express our gratitude to those who made great effort to disseminate the teaching of the Buddha, be that by translating examples, send them out with others, inviting others to join them. Make the power of merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble footpath, and attain the supreme bliss of nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The sorting one transfer merits to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who have contributed to the construction of the monastery, to those of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes, medicines, as well as those who pass on their know-how, extend their well wishes. May the power of the merits, may they abstain from unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, sons, daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employees, and to all those who have helped us, supported us, assisted us in any shape or form. By the power of the merits, may they be healed of any physical, mental ailments, may they overcome any obstacles in their spiritual progress, may they abstain from unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmins, spirits, demons, primary Sakadeva, as well as numerous gods and deities who are committed to protect and fulfill the Sambuddha Sásana. Let us not forget among them will be our garden deities who keep watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May the power of these merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the beautiful path, and attain the supreme bliss of nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who predeceased us, to all those been friends and family to us in this infinite long journey in samsara. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to the armed forces as well as the police force who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost lives in the war, be the friend or foe, rejoice in the merits required today. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslide, pandemics. Reminding ourselves among them will be those who have been friends and family to us in this infinite long journey in samsara. May by the power of the merits, may they, if they're born in the woeful plains, may they redeem themselves and be born in blissful plain. May by the power of the merits, may they abstain from unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain supreme bliss of nibbána. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, let's all resolve, may the power and blessing of all the merits required for the day. We had witnessed the event of many hundreds of thousands of Arhat nuances, Arhat Mahin nuances in this blessed land. And finally, may the power of all the merits required for the day, you and I and everyone who made this program a success, become an Arhat nuance or Arhat Mahin nuance in this Friday life in the era of the Gautama, Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessing of Jam be with you all. The Mahasangha will now transfer the blessings to you. Raga ginnen hidetva, dvesha ginnen hidetva, moha ginnen hidetva, nibbāna parama sukhayan, sukita taravetva. Nibbāna parama sukhayan, sukita taravetva. Mamada siyalu loka, siyalu satnvayo. Nibbāna parama sukhayan, sukita taravetva. Nibbāna parama sukhayan, sukita taravetva. Nibbāna parama sukhayan, sukita taravetva. Raga ghini niveva, dvesha ghini niveva, moha ghini niveva, nivan sapa labheva, nivan sapa labheva. Nivan sapa labheva. Tunrangi, Susyanata Mahagunamim, Siya Loka Siya Satyam, Nibbāna Brahma Sukhim, Sukhitarvita.